Hi, the global exception handler allows you to retry failed activities. So for each project, you are allowed to only have one global exception handler. So for this component, what you can do is you can download and include the global exception handler in the project folder, and you need to change one thing in the project JSON file. So go to the project, right click on project JSON file and open it in an editable notepad or notepad, whatever the tool that you are using. And under runtime options, mention this particular command. So exception handler workflow, and provide the name of the exception handler XML. If it is inside a particular folder, you can use the folder name slash global handler for exception.xml. This name has to be similar with the name that you are using in the exception handler XML file. So what happens here is, in the exception handler, this workflow is, or the exception handler is triggered automatically. You don't need to invoke it. So whenever it is invoked, it logs the error, gets the retry count of the number of attempts it has already tried, and it also gives you the affected activity. So in variables, we have defined how many retry attempts that we need to do. So by default, it is set to 3. The retry count is set to 0. So it checks, whenever it runs into an error, it checks whether the retry count is less than the allowed retry count. So this retry count is generated through the retry count of error info. That's the feature of global exception handler. And if it is less than 0, it logs the error details, including the failed activity name, retry count, whether it's a retry attempt, and the other information related to the error. If it is, if it has reached the retry limit, it will abort by logging in the other information. So the action is set to result. So error action.retry means it will retry the same activity that failed. Abort means it will abort the execution of the entire workflow. So we can try it out. So it's set to default 3 retries. So what I have here is, in my main XML file, I'm reading a read Excel file and getting the data table row count and showing a message box saying the file read is complete. So if I have this Excel file open, by default, the execution should fail uh, in trying to read the Excel. So let's try that. So I'm going to run this. So in debug mode, it will ideally stop here saying, because it's being used by another process. And if I continue this, and this is the second attempt, and this is the second attempt, retrying failed activity, and that's the third. And if it reaches the limit, it stops the execution automatically. So if I, that's, you got the error because you got ran it in debug mode, but if you run it in run, it will continue and throw the error at the very end. And if you check the output, you can see the error and retrying failed. So if I search for retrying, you can see it has tried it 3 times. So if I run this again and try to close the Excel file while it's executing quickly, it should retry a couple of times and complete the workflow successfully. Let's see that. So I'm going into run and quickly closing the Excel, and I got the file read complete message. Yeah, and if I check the output, you have this error only once. So it has tried it once, and next time, because I closed the Excel, it was able to read and give me the message once. So that's how it executes. Thank you very much.